Don't think I need my windshield wipers on. As you can see, it's raining here in sunny Southern California. Obviously, it's not always sunny in Southern California. Move that down a little bit. And I will, we can have an unofficial poll here. But if you've taken a look at the thumbnail, for the people that are already here, maybe you haven't taken a look at it. Maybe you see it when you get a notification. But if you're joining us after the live feed, and you're looking at the thumbnail, what's odd about that supercharger that I have in the thumbnail? What do you think is unique about that? And we're going to talk about it, because there's I've never seen anything like this before, and I've been in for a long time, and I've seen lots and lots of these roots blowers from all of the manufacturers. This one's from Mooneyham. We have Hampton, we got YN, B&M, the blower shop obviously has the billet stuff. There were obviously Detroit Diesel, so there's a lot of different ones available, but this one has something on it that I had never seen before, and it's really, really cool. But the question for today for us will be, is it actually beneficial? And I'm kind of curious about that. I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think about that, and we want to talk about it a little bit, about whether or not it actually does good. Does it make more power? Is it for longevity? You know, what do you guys think it is? So let me know in the comments, if you look at that thumbnail, what do you guys think is unique about that blower? What do you see on that blower that might change the way that it works? And I'll let you know in just a minute. Right now I'm on the Dyno. I've got the LS up there. We're going to be running the Joker's ported blower and the Tick intercooler, the air-to-water intercooler on it. And we have, what I did is, for you guys that have been following, for you guys that are following the channel, thank you. But the last time I ran the intercooler from Tick, it's like way more intercooler than that blower could ever use, because it's an M90 blower, and that intercooler is designed for 1,000 or more horsepower, and they do a good job on their stuff. So I shout out to the guys at Tick Performance. That I like that intercooler, and I can't wait to use it on other stuff that actually makes more power. And I have something coming up that will actually do that. But the last time we tried to run it with the M90 sat like right above the intercooler, because it was basically just a plate, and then a very, very small, about that big, half inch or something, a very, very small spacer. Because with that intercooler, they designed that intercooler to work with a Holley high ram. So the intercooler itself, the sealing surface, attaches to the flange on the lower high ram, and then attaches to the flange on the upper high ram. But the way they did the intercooler core actually sticks proud of that on both sides. So it sticks down into the lower and up into the upper just a little bit. The problem with that, with what we're trying to run, they obviously never designed it so you could do a super Richie Tom DeMuse Engineering M90 blower adapter kit on it. So we had to use a little bit of a spacer on the top. But the problem is the opening, the opening in the blower to discharge out of our adapter plate is only about this big. It's basically the size of the opening on the N90 blower. And the problem is, it's just blowing through a section of the intercooler that's only that big. And so we're not taking advantage of everything that intercooler has to offer. Despite that fact, I think that with that intercooler, it's probably more than enough anyway, and it did good. We did see a significant drop in charge temperature, which we expect from an intercooler that's that size. And like I said, it's sized for 1,000 plus horsepower, and we were only making near, very, very low 600s. But what we did this time, excuse me, is I put a much thicker plate on it. So now it has the spacer plate to raise the blower up, and now we can use hopefully more of the intercooler core. So that should help. Not that I think that there would be any kind of pressure drop across that core given the amount of airflow that we have, but we should be using more of the intercooler. There should be less restriction. Maybe we'll see a change in charge temperature. We'll have to see. But we also have the ported M90 blower that the guys from Jokers did, so I'm excited about putting that on there and making it run. Mahovitz was cool enough to machine out the spacer plate that we had. Tom DeMuse from DeMuse Engineering sent me some plates that I could use for this, because I'm also going to be using them for something else I'm hoping to test. So we'll be able to try that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when we run all that. We'll be able to utilize the intercooler. We'll be able to utilize the ported blower and, you know, kind of see what happens. So I'm excited about that. We'll run that. We'll run all that on E85, and, you know, it should make good power. But back to our thumbnail. So the thumbnail is a 671. I think it's a 671, pretty sure. And the interesting thing about that blower is that if you take a look, it has 2 AN fittings that you can see in the photo. There are actually 4. There are 2 on one side and 2 on the other. Frosty cold beverage. And the reason that it has those AN fittings on the blower is because it has a water-cooled blower housing. So the blower case outside of the spinning rotors, so the rotors obviously are spinning inside the housing, and there's a wall in that housing. Then there's like a second wall outside of that, and there's a space in between. There's a cavity, a void in between there, and there's circulating water through that. So they're going to cool off the blower housing. So my first question to you guys, and you let me know in the comments, is if we're running water through the blower housing, obviously we're going to keep the blower housing cooler. Is that going to result in lower charge temperature? By cooling the housing, my first question is, by cooling the housing, will we cool the charge air, the air exiting the supercharger? Now on a roots blower, there's no internal compression. So all it does is, while it's spinning, it grabs air from one side of the top side of the blower and grabs air and moves it down to the bottom side. All the compression happens down here because we basically grabbed more air and forced more air in than the motor is able to use. That's basically back pressure. We call it boost. It's essentially back pressure on the motor. And so it's spinning fast, grabbing air, pushing it to this side, and then we build up boost. And then because we're pushing more air in than the motor can use, we're force feeding the motor, and it makes more power. So the question is, will cooling the blower housing, will that actually cool the charge air? So that's a good question for you guys. And so would cooling the housing result in any kind of power gain? The next question is, anybody who's ever run a roots blower, and these roots blowers were primarily done for having air and fuel drawn in through the top of the blower. So we normally see these with carburetors on top of them. A single carburetor, multiple carburetors, dual 750s, dual 950s, sometimes dual dominators. And so here's the question. And here's why I don't know if cooling the blower actually has some benefit. If you run a supercharger like this, a root supercharger, and you run fuel through the top of the blower, which these need to help lubricate the rotors and help cool them, obviously, we see a lot of charge cooling going through these blowers. In fact, it's not unusual when you're running fuel, but certainly E85 or methanol. If you're running these and you're running that kind of fuel through there, it's not unusual for the blower to be like almost ice cold to the touch. You'll see condensation. You'll see these blowers, you'll see some condensation rolling off of these blowers because they get so cold when they're processing that kind of fuel. Again, particularly E85, the alcohol-based fuels, E85 and methanol. If you're blowing methanol through there or drawing methanol through there or drawing E85, but we also see this with just gasoline. Because of the latent heat of vaporization and because of the cooling effect of fuel, and we see that all the time. When you do a blow-through carburetor, if you measure the temperature of the air on the bottom side of the carburetor or the manifold, it's very cold. You've taken a ton of heat out of these things just by using gasoline. So, and E85, even better, methanol, even better. So if we're cooling the blower, inside the blower, cooling the air, just by introducing fuel and having fuel flow from one side to the top side to the bottom side, cooling the blower with water, is that going to be a benefit? I honestly don't think it is. I don't think we're going to see a change in charge temperature introduced by having water flow through this blower. First of all, we're not going to see colder water through that unless we use ice water, which I don't know if they would do that, but you could. Unless we used ice water, that the charge air going through there is already colder than the water that you could circulate through there. So that this leads me to believe. Do you believe that circulating the water through there, because the blower gets so cold, that they're putting temperature in the blower instead of the other way around? Instead of trying to take temperature out of the blower, are they putting temperature into the blower, like we see with these, you know, you see a lot of this on remote carburetors. So they run engine water through that to help get temperature so that you get atomization. Let me know if you think that that's possible. Like I said, I've never seen these, and I haven't done any research on them, but I'm going to tonight. I'm going to go after I get done with all my work. I'll spend an hour or whatever at midnight and try to go down the rabbit hole on these water-cooled blowers and see if anything was happening. Do you think it's a longevity thing? Do you think that it's a case distortion thing? What do you think is happening there? Let me know in the comments. I'm kind of curious what you guys have to say. Like I said, after looking at what happens when we run fuel through them, I just don't know what kind of cooling you're going to get. And even if we got cooling from a water-cooled housing, I don't know how much of that is transmitted, you know, to the charge air as it processes through the blower. This stuff processes so fast that I just don't know if there's time for, if it was cooler on the outside and it's hotter on the inside, for that temperature to flow from one side to the other and actually change the charge temperature. I don't know if that's possible. We see that from hot air intakes and cold air intakes and stuff. Usually the temperature of the air going in makes way more of a difference than the temperature of the tube that it's flowing through. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Sunny Saturday morning. I guess technically it's kind of afternoon, and probably in a lot of places it is. Scroll back and see what kind of questions you guys got. Good to see you guys. Sean, Getaway, Eric, what's up? Turbo Sentra, how's your Sentra running? Water-cooled blower? Nah, bro. Pentium 4 CPU, yeah. I'm in a truck while raining, yep. Troy from West Tech just went over. He went over to the wrecking yard. I was actually going to go to the wrecking yard. I was waiting till after I was done with all my dyno testing to go over to the wrecking yard because I wanted to do a walkthrough and look at cool stuff. He needed to get some bolts for the power steering bracket for his truck. He's got a 6-liter truck. And he went over to get it, and I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be cool. I'm going to go over to the wrecking yard. It's beautiful out. And now this. I said, Troy, isn't that always the way? He goes, I know, man. I can't believe it. But he braved the, you know, it's not that cold, but it's just raining. So Green Bass, you're gonna JB weld to the top some 4 CPU heat sinks from 2004. Total Performance, what's up? There, I was googling leaf blower turbos, and hello. Is that the intercooler on top? No, there's no intercooler on top of it. Dry ice on Supercharger, that's all that's needed. You're gonna set dry ice on top of the blower? It doesn't like breathing that stuff in. I'm not sure, not Roots experience, but the one time I touched a running 671, it was really hot, so maybe more durability and consistency. Was the blower hot? Was it processing fuel through it? Because I've never felt one that's hot when it has fuel running through it. If there's a scatter bag on charger, you got a place for charging system woes that I've been having with the truck. Last night, what I did is I took some welding cable with Eric and Ish were there. We got some welding cable, crimped some ends on it, ran another power lead from the battery, from the positive terminal of the battery, down to the little red fuse block down there that's, you know, kind of in between on the way over to the battery. Basically had another power feed going to that block. Same thing happened this morning though. That did not cure it. So now tonight I'm trying a new battery. So we'll try and see, because they've got a used battery there, and we're going to swap batteries, see if this is a problem. Because all I do is just wiggle it, just move the wire at all, and the truck starts right up. So now we're going to try and see if it's a battery, see if it's a bad plate or connection in the battery. We'll try that tonight, and I'll let you guys know tomorrow what's going on. Tim, good afternoon. If there's a scatter bag on the charger, you got a place for dry ice. Just bought the Tick ultra low air to water intercooler for my L83. Really nice unit. I can't wait to see some of your testing with it. Yeah, that's a good intercooler. Given dwell of contact on blowers, usually sweat. Not sure there'll be much of a gain. Richard just sent you money for the Truck Norris. The Truck Norris and the 219 cam, so you know, are different things. One of them is the low buck Truck Norris. One of them is the 219 cam. The 219 cam is one step bigger in terms of performance than the low buck Truck Norris. The low buck Truck Norris makes more low speed power. Bigger 219 cam makes more peak power. And yeah, I can send you, if you send me an email, I can send you the cam specs. But the Truck Norris is like a 212, 220 something, and the 219 cam is 219, 225 or 6. Turbo sensor, I don't think it'll make any difference. I don't think it'll cool the charge. There's a boundary layer, that's right. Cooling from both sides should lower charge temperature. I don't think that will make any difference in charge temperature, but should keep the case from swelling and keep the rotors close more. Yeah, and that's a good point, T, is that if we keep the blower at a constant temperature, maybe the sealing will be better. But like I said, we're getting so much cooling inside from the fuel that I don't know what the temperature gradient is. We see temperature gradient definitely on twin screw blowers, because they're more efficient than roots. They have internal compression. So there is a difference in case temperature between the inlet and the discharge side of those. But on roots blowers from top to bottom, I don't know that we would see that. Cooling housing can't hurt. I think it'd cool the charge a little, but not a lot. I believe the cooling of housing helps the blower internal parts, but not much charge cooling. Jet hot, yeah, do some jet hot coating on it. 85, that's my next adventure. Got the sensor, pigtail, and fittings. Not sure it'll pick up a ton versus 93. I'm going to have to look through Richard Holder's videos. What are you doing E85 on? Is it a boosted motor? 31 thumbs up. That's right. Get those thumbs up, yo. Should be good at heating up the water. I don't boost. Look at the water in, water out temperatures, not only the inlet air temperature. Yeah, you would monitor both of those and see what's happening, and it might be taking heat out, but it would be interesting to see. I'd like to see the change in cruise temperature versus wide open throttle temperature. The bearings and the shafts would benefit the most from cooling besides tuning electronic injection. Mainly to reduce case thermal expansion, I think, maybe. Richard, stock, LS2, fast, Nick Williams. Would I gain anything from an LS3 top-end swap? Yes, you'll gain a lot from the cam, and then the LS3 heads and intake are much better than the LS2 stuff is. Monster for the win. Yeah. We have the same weather in Michigan. It's raining here, 37 degrees. Wow, that's really bad, because if it gets down where it's not snowing, but it's really cold and it's raining, that's not a good combination. I parked it until I'm going to race it. Okay. Possibly the water-cooled blower can be made more efficient because you can run tighter clearances. Maybe. That might be it. Usually they strip the rotors on those to get the tolerances right there, but the case can't spin a bearing if it's cooled. 60 and sunny in Sloppy Central. Where is Sloppy Central? Is that in Ohio? Would it be better to have AC evaporator installed below the blower in the intake manifold? It'd be better to have below the blower. That's done a lot. A new battery. This way, rather than just buying a new battery, which I could do, but this way I test that, because I like doing a step-by-step thing like this to find out what's actually going on. What I think is I probably have to, I mean, with 330,000 miles, it wouldn't surprise me if both the positive and the negative cables are corroded. If I splice them open, it wouldn't surprise me if they're green. But I want to eliminate stuff. Let's see. New battery. My understanding was those 671s used in boats for cruising and not wide open throttle. Is that what it is, Scott? I just don't have any experience with this water-cooled one. It's an older blower that Westech has had sitting around, and I think that they even got it from the guys at Edelbrock. Maybe it's just because all the company engineers ran out of stuff to design. It was running. I may have touched it at the gearbox area in 25 years. I had a B&M 174. I've run those with gas. That blower was hot. The blower was hot when you were running fuel through it. And this is the other thing that, like a blower under the hood like that, when we ran the 174 on the big block in my truck, getting fuel going through it, if there's not a lot of fuel flow through it, and there's no bypass valve, there might be temperature then. But I don't know that a 671 built it for cruising. That would be interesting to see. That's a good call, Scott. Maybe it's just because all the company engineers ran that stuff. Yeah, we got that. There must have been a specific reason they made that blower to solve some issue, but I'm having a hard time thinking what it is. A friend that's helped me do the 5 has a 468 Elco with Dominator carb running 85. Definitely smells the alcohol runners in the 90s and early 2000s. Steve, thanks for the information. I want the bigger cam. Okay. Yeah, Steve, if you haven't placed the order yet, just make sure that you put the order on PayPal, that you have your address and the cam you want on the PayPal order. Sure, it's an NA 6-liter, approximately 10.4 to 1. Okay. Interval rebuilding specs on Supercharger will benefit from backup cooling in this situation. Do you think the placement of the fitting is good for that application, or should you just have more flow going straight from the inlet to the outlet without going to the rest? Are you talking about the water flow for that blower? Alex, thanks. Old water-cooled CPU. Central is North Hampton, Monroe County, Pennsylvania. Okay. 20 from Matt's house. We'll say hey to Matt. Make sure you swap out with OFC copper and not CCA crap on your cables. I don't know. How do I determine that from wire that we have laying around? I think it'll just be a big water heater. Shadow, sounds like you're making progress on your deal, right? Bonneville build, maybe. Yeah, maybe for that. Maybe for a long period of time. But again, with the fuel flowing through there, even if it's a long period of time, I think it's still cool. 2-stroke diesel issues. 671 is a 2-stroke. Yeah, but this is a... This Mooneyham is not a. This was not a 2-stroke blower. This was a performance blower. Could it be intended for use with lower latent fuel heat fuels? Maybe. Talking about it, I wonder if it's going the other way. Like a water injection kind of day. Yep. Is the 4X LT1 guy here today? I don't know. Digging through your old videos for 85 versus pump 91 comparison. I swear you did that on an NA engine at least once before. I've run that on many engines, NA. I've run it on LS motors a lot, because before we do the blower stuff or turbo stuff on the LS, I'll run the NA motor on 91. We'll just do all the testing on 91, and then we'll put E85 in it, and then we'll add boost. And whenever we put E85 on it, there just doesn't seem to be much of a gain. Just thermal stability, yep. Are the old Detroit diesel 671 blowers worth investing the money rebuilding other than a nostalgic look, or do you just find an aftermarket one? If you're wanting to make power, the aftermarket stuff is definitely going to be better. Like the blower shop stuff is really good, but what a lot of guys want is that old school blower case look, and those are hard to find now, which I think is probably why Wyand and those guys are not doing this anymore. Maybe the cases, which is awesome, they look great, but some guys want the other look. Personally, I think the billet cases like the blower shop, I think those are great. I'm scrolling back, green bass. Let's see. I will next time on the dyno, based on yesterday's vid and battery discussion. Oh, you think it's a connection between the plates and the in the battery? Well, that's what we're testing next. I'm putting a new battery on it, and we'll do the test again because I let it sit overnight tomorrow morning if that battery fixes the problem. Torqued the cam gear bolts. Friend modified my pickup tube retaining plate and the aftermarket cheap grill so it would work with 2 bolts. Cool. Price would be first. Oxygen-free copper will be heavier than copper-clad aluminum. Not as good of a conductor. Do the wire strands look different? Sent money through PayPal. I also sent an email with my address. Yeah, it's much better for me if the address, and you can even put a message with your address if the address is on the PayPal order. Otherwise, I have to jump from the PayPal order back to email and get those. You know, there's cross-mogination, and there's just more of a chance of the order getting messed up. Made progress. Appreciate all the tips. Here you go. Richard, I finally touched the engine after getting in January. Crappy weather here, yeah. Maybe port injection to help cooling. It might be that. Maybe they're running something underneath it. We run a billet 871 on a 540 with methanol, and it gets frosty cold. Yeah, that's what we see normally. Especially in the summer, it's freezing to the touch. I'd recommend E85 or methanol. Yeah, no, they love that. I mean, twin screw for power. Yep, they're good. I just learned there are 3 styles of LS pickup tubes. One has a step, one is straight, and the other is flared. Are those all truck ones? Richard, at least it will be already set up for the next engine with 11.5 to 1 compression. Cool. Those Roger, the Detroit diesels are the reason for your hearing loss. Centrifugal quad roots. Facebook Marketplace has some big block Chevy boat log manifolds for $50 if anyone needs good turbo logs. Alky Digger in Nashville is a great blower shop. Okay, if you need parts, they have a lot. I guess I'm lucky to be close by. That's cool. OCA is orange. And so which one of those? I want the orange one. The direct injection all day. Yeah, this is the orange wire. And it's not a voltage thing. It's not a lack of voltage. It's not the capacity of the capability of the wire. It's got to be a connection somewhere, because there's no way the wire is not going to all of a sudden get better on a wiggle test. So that it's not a wire issue. So Shadow, you're talking about the step and stuff where it goes into the pump, right? I was hoping to get maybe 0.05 to 0.1 out of fuel, but likely asking too much. I was denied at 12.9 last time. Weather was a lot warmer. Oh, so you're hoping to get that kind of gain from a flex fuel? Here's what I can tell you about running the E85. Running E85 will be probably more beneficial on the street for most people than it is for us on the dyno. Because on the dyno, we're running 130 or 140 degree water temperature. So we don't get detonation on 91 octane. So we're able to use all the timing that the motor could have that the combustion chamber design really wants for maximum power. On the street, most people can't do that. If you're running your motor at between 185 and 200 degrees, you usually can't run full timing without detonations, especially on 91. 93 is a little bit better. So if you run E85 and it allows you to add the timing that you need, that the motor wants to make the power that it can make, you can probably get more gains from E85 on the street. Wrong. 4-valve LS7 with 670 is all I want to see. A 4-valve LS7? Have you ever put a blower on an inline 292, or is this a turbo? I've only run a turbo on that motor. And it was a blow-through carbureted deal on E85 that we just ran a bunch of jet in the 500 CFM 412 2-barrel Holly deal. Blue collar, my coolant's usually 178 to 81. We have 93 here in Florida. Pump 85 usually measures around 63. Yeah, the percentage thing is not really the issue, particularly on a naturally aspirated deal. And even on turbo and blower stuff, it honestly wouldn't make a difference if it was 60% or 70% or 80%. I'm never near the last 1 or 2% to make the power. I don't have a tuning window that's that narrow. So after about 50%, they all seem to gain a bunch. Oh, Mercury Racing. Okay. Yeah, I've seen those motors. Pretty uncommon on the street. With this area, that's what we usually have. Yeah, and like I said, I don't even measure it when we run it on the dyno and tune it, but I don't even care what it is. We know E85 is going to be better than the 91. E85 made no difference for me. My fuel mileage dropped. Yeah, no, I wouldn't use it. We don't use it as a daily thing. I have put it in my truck when I've driven home, only because I had extra E85. If I have 5 gallons or whatever, I just put it in the tank and then put 87, because I normally drive around with 87 because it's cheap. But, you know, the knock sensors will compensate for everything, and the O2s will compensate for everything that we need to change. I usually only run a small percentage, and I'm just doing it because it's left over, you know. I'm not running E85 because I think E85 for daily driving would be better. It's not. I'm just cruising down the road, and when I'm making trips from back and forth, doing the 1,000-mile journey here that I have to do to come down to West Tech and test, you know, I just want to cruise and just make it both ways. E5 made no difference to me. Yeah, Sean, what was the... Do you know if anybody has written programs for CNC porting for 4-valve Cleveland heads? If not, would you recommend to have hand porting done? I don't know. Talk to Eric Weingartner. He might have done Cleveland heads. The guys from MPG Heads, I'm hoping that they're still in business. Those are good guys. Have done a lot of big block Ford stuff, but I think that they've also done Cleveland stuff. Anybody have any experience with MSD BTM? I think the computer that goes inside the car has to be low voltage because of the safety issues. I would assume you want to make your own MSD rather than just buying one that's already done. Just cruise and have a pizza. Oliver, what was your question about water? I didn't see a water injection question. I'm scrolling back, Oliver, but I didn't see it. Otherwise, I would have answered it. I try to answer every question. Yeah, I'm scrolling back, but I'm not seeing it. Scrolling. Yeah, Oliver, I don't see it. But if you have a question about water injection, let me know. See, starts right up. First time every time. Except in the morning. I have the unit, a cable that goes to the interior on the knob. Oh, the dial boost knob. I'll look at my storage and see if I have one of those. I may have an old one in there. I know I have a knob for a Kenny Bell one, but I don't know if the hookup is the same, and I don't know if because it's just a rheostat, right? It's about the video of David Vizard where he says you can compensate for low octane fuel with water injection. You can from a detonation standpoint, as long as your water injection is consistent. Does it happen the same every time? And what happens if you run out? I think he was saying 17-1 or something, which is, you know, not a realistic street application. He says you can run 30 pounds and compensate with water injection. Okay, you should try that. Since nobody is doing that, I would say that that's probably not a good idea. And also E85 adds power just from the fuel that has nothing to do with detonation. Except in the morning, it's colder in the morning and a wire can have an intermittent open internally or a bad battery cell. Yeah, we're thinking battery cell. The guys that are talking about this temperature differential are talking about that somewhere else in the United States, because in Southern California, it might have been 50 at night or something, you know, or 45, probably not even 45, probably 50. It's not super cold, because I'm still in shorts, so it's not that cold. So it's not a big temperature change. I'm watching while waiting the parts washer to clean my intake, bell housing, and stuff. I would think it's the one I have as a Vortex Supercharger kit. Just tuning in. I can't wait for my 219 cam to come. We're already planning a shop day for the install. Have you done any testing with it? Yeah, I've done lots of testing with it. I've compared it directly to the Truck Norris cam that I'm selling, and the 219 cam picked up 81 horsepower, and the Truck Norris cam picked up 65. The Truck Norris cam makes more power down low. The bigger 219 cam makes more power up top. I've jiggled harnesses around and ohm values would spike and then drop. Yep, I don't doubt it. Is there any port water injection system? I mean, it's something that you could rig up. That's been always my concern with water methanol or just water injection, is that, and especially if you're trying to do something at these extremes that people talk, like David's thing that he did, you know, 17-1 or run 30 pounds of boost or whatever. All that's well and good if everything is working perfectly. But the closer you get to the end of the tuning window, the more you're relying on all of that stuff working perfectly. And that's why I don't suggest, even though it makes a good video for YouTube or whatever, but how do you make sure that all of the water injection or water methanol injection gets to all the runners evenly? Because it only takes one bad one to ruin the motor. And that's always been my issue with those injections, is that you need to either design the system so that it injects in all the ports evenly, or run it in a manifold that has better distribution for that kind of setup, or you're injecting enough that you've put enough in the worst cylinder and then all the rest have more than they need. What I would try is an emulsion, gas and water. I see you can mix water and oil in a vacuum chamber. So you're talking about esoteric stuff. Having a bottle full of that sort of emulsion also is a safety factor. Kurt, thank you. You should try that. You're gonna be a nice guy for walking that back. No, David's a really sharp guy. But again, like I talked about, if you're going to the nth degree and you're wanting to try that, the problem with putting that sort of information out there is it makes people think that they can just go do that on all their stuff. And I don't agree with that. It's like the Big Bang thing. Hey, look, Richard made 1,540 horsepower from a stock bottom end. Richard doesn't recommend that you do that. I did that because we were trying to find out what the limit was, but we're trying to find the one run limit of a motor and then it blows up. But the misinformation that people get out there, and I try to cover all the comments when people have comments about this, but people think, oh yeah, they're like, well, how drivable is that? How long does it last? Will it last forever? No, it won't. It lasted one run like that. Well, in this case, it lasts more because we didn't break it. But when we're going to the thing where it will only make one run at that power, that doesn't mean that this is a cheap way to do it and you can go out and make 1,500 horsepower and only spend $1,000 doing it. That's just not real. We did it for the magazine story, but we did it, for a one-time thing. But the problem is that people extrapolate from that and say, hey, look, you can do this on the cheap. Just blow turbos on and go. Richard said you could do that. Richard didn't say that. Water meth injection was big in the Evos and STIs back in the day. It's been used for a long time. And a lot of guys have had success with it. It just scares me when I do testing with it and check the individual cylinders. Richard, what did I miss? I was out ripping the turbo 4.3 liter Vortec Tornado. Nice. Out on the snowy roads behind the house. Turbo's a blast. What size turbo's on that, CJ? Got a drive shaft seat and a radiator from the pull apart. Nice. Water meth injection worked great on the SRT4. Only problem was, seemed like it was always running empty. Yeah, that just means you're using a lot, right? They run them on the Conquest TSIs. Yeah, I remember guys doing them on the Starions and stuff. Without any controller, so I guess the default setting is something. Yeah, I don't know what the default setting would be. I don't know if it's like if you turn the knob all the way to one side, it's 0. It's not taking away any, but found a Scion FRS 93 versus 83 octane. The pump E was used was 71%. Went from 193 to 208. Impressive gain, 15 wheel horsepower. Yeah, blue collar, the only gain that you would see is that, like I said, we were talking about, it probably changed timing. Because we see big changes on chassis dynos with LT1s, the Gen 5 stuff, and Coyotes. Water spritzing was used in aviation. Yeah, it's been around for a long time. Most power is right next to detonation and blowing up. On boosted stuff, I'd say that that's the case. On NA motors, it's not. There's more of a window there. That's why you got to revisit the 6 liter and find out, yeah, what lets go. I'm seeing 27.5 to 28 degrees of total timing. Yeah, we run 29, but usually there's not much of a gain there between 27 and 29. Not too much extra. Man, the amount of prep for this stuff is... It seems like I'm spending all my time doing stuff, getting ready to dyno rather than actually dyno testing. Every time you change one thing, and all kinds of other things want to change. Man, this truck needs a bath. That's the nice thing about the rain, though. I got a free bath, got a free car wash. If you're trying to restart and rebuild your life in 2024, what field would you go into? I think I'd learn more about finance. Boosted power, yeah. One day I'll have to measure the Vortec Tornado Turbo. It's one small T3 flange. Thermal 8 2000 650 twin turbo Chevy 350. I used it to have on my kit on my 78 350 Firebird. So you use one small one on that 350. So it's probably pretty snappy then on the 4.3, right? So I wonder if it's like a T3 TO4 or something like that. I mean, they have big T3s. They've got GT35s. Those are 500 or 600 horsepower turbos. Probably 6 on the right thing. On a good motor, a smaller motor. So I was looking through my cams that I have, some of the used ones. If you guys want that, we have the low buck Truck Norris and the one step bigger 219, 225 cam. So like for a 6-liter, or even if you want to make, you want more power, you want more NA power, that works good. The low buck Truck Norris, good for a 4.8, 5.3. I think it would be good as a driver cam too in a 6-liter. I would definitely put it in a daily driver 6-liter. But I have some used ones. I've got all the sloppy stage cams, 1, 1.5, 2, and 3. The guys from Elgin do a good job. We ran a bunch of tests on those. Those are available. I've got a Chupacabra, I think, sitting there. I've got one of the little Summit truck cams and a Cam Motion truck cam. So I got that stuff available. Snappy 4.3 liter turbo. Makes awesome torque and all the right noises. Yep. No small block Chevy cams. Do a better job of explaining it than anyone else and stand your ground politely, even though you sit on a mountaintop of knowledge. I don't know about the mountaintop. I just try to take a common sense approach to stuff. A lot of the problems we see in life, certainly on social media, is that guys want like absolutes. They want like black and white answers. Oh, you could run like with the David Vizard thing. David said you can run, 17-to-1 compression or 30 pounds of boost and water injection. Could you do that? Yeah, you probably could. With enough water injection, you could run 17-to-1 if you could figure out a combination to get 17-to-1. That's hard to do on some applications that are not really big motors. But could you do that? Yeah. But because you could do that, does that mean you should do that? Or does that mean, because a lot of people take that as, okay, universally, I can do that no matter what. I can run any compression I want, just run water injection and everything will be fine. That's their takeaway from something that David's able to do and make work. What he's able to do and make work is different than what the rest of us could do. That's not a universal thing. That's why, when we have these discussions about camshafts, I make sure that I talk about camshafts that are the like 95% rule. Here's cams. So when I say every cam's a turbo cam, it's a good example. Are there cams that like is a top fuel cam, a turbo cam? If you go to extremes, you can find the exceptions. But we're not all dealing with these little tiny exceptions. We're dealing with what the vast majority of us do. And no matter what cam you pick, and my thing is when I have discussions with guys that are cam experts, is that I tell them, hey, look, go find your catalog, whatever your cam offerings are. Go find what BTR, Cam Motion, or Comp Cams, or look at any of their shelf cams. Heck, look at most of their custom cams. And tell me which one of those we can't run. So we have 10,000 cams that this works for, and we have 1 or 2 or 5 cams or whatever that it doesn't work for. That's still pretty accurate. And those are the guys that I want to talk to. I don't want to talk to a pro stock guy. I don't want to talk to a mountain motor guy. I don't want to talk to what's the racing class that people make all the big pro mod guy. That's not who that guy shouldn't be listening to me anyways, unless he's building a street motor. He shouldn't be listening to me to decide to have me help him decide what cams to use as pro mod motor. That's not me. I'm not that guy. But the very few guys that are out there doing that, and the millions of other guys that are doing what I'm talking about, I'd rather deal with them. So it's the same thing with this deal with water injection. Can you do it? Yeah. Can you put 4-valve heads on a V10? Yeah, you can. Guys did it. I can't wait to try to test it. But most people are not going to do that. Most people are going to run 2-valve heads or 3-valve heads the way that it came, because they've already scienced all of that stuff out for you. So it wouldn't make any sense for me to talk about cam profiles for 4-valve motor, for 4-valve heads on a V10 and help the one guy that's going to be doing that. I'd rather talk about 3-valve cams or 2-valve cams that will help more people. Common sense is so uncommon. Told a couple people about the truck NARS cams. Finally got all the Silverado ECU stuff on my CB450 engine. Oh, cool. I'm having injector problems that are baffling me. They pulse a couple of times and stop. Not a hard stop. You can see them pulse less. You don't have... It's not drivers going bad, right? Check the voltage... Mark, check the voltage while this is happening. Put a fluke meter on it and check the voltage at the injector and see what's happening. Even connecting one straight to the battery, it slowly dies out. 3 injectors, all being difficult. Have you ever tried any unconventional form of anti-lag? Rocket anti-lag or John Pierce booty type systems? Not on the... I can't really do that on the engine dyno because we wouldn't run anti-lag for that. Just ported my Gen 5 M90 to 85mm throttle body. Very cool. The next mod for the 4.3-liter Vortec Tornado remote turbo is either going to be intercooler or the Australia 72-pound Spider injectors to convert over to E85. What's in there now, CJ? Did you put bigger ones in there already? I only have a 2-cylinder engine. Both are doing it. Also tested, connected directly to the battery. I'm going to try the Summit Pro Series OE Roller Stage 2 in my daily driver LT1. Okay, cool. The stream went black for you? Stream is good. Stream is good. Stream is up. Stream is streaming. Do you think there might be some kind of diffuser plate that would help distribute the air across the charged cooler with your supercharger? It doesn't really need a diffuser. To do that, the only thing that it would do is stop the stuff that's going to the front. They're on sale $259 compared to comps $529 to $600. Okay. It's back. Okay, yeah, maybe Mark, maybe. I don't know if it's a trouble on this end or on your end. The current 4.3 Spider injectors are decapped. Did you flow those, CJ? What was the change in flow? I'm gonna need. Let's see if I can get in a different position here. Maybe get my stream back. We're gonna be leaving in just a minute. Crawfish, either one of the pistons will work. If the cast pistons will work there, any forged piston will work there. Also going to be running an intercooler. So you're going to try it in an LT1 before you stick it in. No, I can get cams. I don't want to. I'm not going to do things where people are going to be sending me stuff and I got to send it back. It's too much of a hassle. But I appreciate the offer, but I'll just get a cam for the LT1. 6-8, I do have cams for a 5.3, lots of them. Yeah, happy Easter, guys, for tomorrow, but I'll be on tomorrow. I'll be dyno testing, and I will be on a live feed. A couple more minutes, get your questions in, and order some cams. I made a run of them, so we need to get rid of them. And I got some used ones. I'm getting a little suspicious of the green tractor that keeps passing by. Oh, there's like hundreds of them. Worried about the wear with a 2618. Why are you worried about the wear on the, you're worried about the cam wear? A 2618 is not a very big spring. Currently working on a 73 MGB. Nice. Turbo 3.1 V6. Think it might need a smaller turbo than the T4 20. I don't know. A T4 and a 28 millimeter don't go together. Doesn't build any boost. A T4 is way too big for a 3.1. You need a T3 base turbo, especially if that 3.1 is stock. I'll pay both ways. I certainly don't want to pass the cost on to you. No, that it's not even that. It's not even the cost. It's just the time thing. The cold start pistons. Talk to the guys at Summit Racing and see. I don't know what the I need to look and see what the clearance specifications are for both of those. The decap 4.3 spider injectors were never flow tested, and using HP tuners, I have 42 pound injector flow rate up from the 19s. Okay, cool. That's good. One more minute. Time for dyno. Whoa. Dyno dozen. .1 is a little bit bigger cam. Yeah, it's still, that's I would never put a T4 on there. We'd definitely put a T3. In fact, I'd use I might even go with a T28, but a T3 would be fine. A 3076 or even smaller than that. Higher on the 2618, something like 4,000. I don't know what you're talking about. What's changed 4,000s? That doesn't seem like very much. What's a chicken foot? CJ, what do you have cams in your 4.3, and what springs did you use? Can you run beehive springs, like LS beehive springs on the 4.3? Oh, cylinder and piston clearance. Okay. 4 seems a little tight for a forged piston, but so just make sure that the 4 would be more like a cast piston or a hypereutectic piston, maybe. How about super richy port water injection? Yeah, we might try something like. I wanted to do that since I did the test with Freiberger on Engine Masters, where we monitored the charge temperature change when we ran water meth injection and compared it to intercooling. The intercooling makes more power, but when we ran the water meth injection, we put probes in individual ports around the I think it was an LS6 intake manifold, and so we wanted to see if we were getting. We were just measuring charge temperature. We didn't have 802s on it. It would have been good also, and would have showed the same thing. We were just seeing how much cooling we were getting, and the cooling was definitely different in the different cylinders. So that leads me to that if we're running water meth injection, that we get it evenly to all ports. So what I've wanted to do, I told David I would do this and I never did, but we'd have to get really small injectors and run it, just plumb it to each one of the cylinders. Every motor is a turbo motor, 4.3 stock cam and springs. Yeah, no, I just wondered if you would put cams in it or put a cam in it. Time for a weird question. Can you inject propane in an engine, improve performance to save on gas? You can run motors on propane, but you have to have the proper propane mixer or carburetor deal. I don't know about I've only seen guys inject propane in diesel applications. I don't know that I've ever seen it on a gas engine. That doesn't mean you can't do it. I just have never seen it. Anybody else has had experience with that, you can chime in. There we go. It's time to go. Chicken Food is a band with Sammy Hagar. Okay. And on that note, it is time to go. I got to get back to the dyno. Thank you guys for all showing up. I should be back tonight, and I will be on tomorrow also. Thank you guys.